face but live under a very unusual set of circumstances. But I think what's reassuring is that we've had frequent contact since we went into lockdown and subsequent to that. And I mean, via our announcements, through our group chat and emails, our constant interactions back and forth individually and in group context, we have been successful by way of communication. So I think there hasn't been that wide a gap in terms of the constant communication for this module between your lecturers and me as MC and the expectations being communicated to you. So, insofar as that goes, I think many students have felt quite comfortable liaising with us and getting the kind of guidance that they required to forge ahead. As challenging as these times are, it is really heartwarming to note that students have been engaging in this module, have been working consistently. And I think the plus point for this module is that we always worked at really a very, very good pace. Um, just a little insertion, the YouTube link is now live. So TNT students, if you want to actually join in, etc., the glitch that um, was originally kind of taking place is now sorted out. So students, you will find that we have been on a winning wicket with regards to achieving the module outcomes, irrespective of the circumstances under which we find ourselves. Simply being, as I said, we were working with this module at a pace that was really, really manageable. We have been consistent, in our lectures from the beginning of this module, and even communicating our expectations ahead of time. So I think in that sense, we have been making headway with where we need to be with regards to this module. So you can see comfort in that. And I think that can actually serve to kind of alleviate some of your concerns and issues surrounding this module. What I actually have planned, and our co-lecturers are on board, maybe they can just quickly say hello. If I can just say, we have Mr. Mamutse Kuda on board as well from our Montana campus.
Good morning, students. How are you doing?
Okay. And then, of course, we have Mr. Alfred Machingambe. Alfred, you want to say from our Waterfall campus, you want to say a quick hello to our students?
Good morning to you all students and welcome online.
Okay, thank you for that, Alfred. So the three of us as a team have put together the session just to kind of address some of the concerns predominantly surrounding assessment and where the rest of this semester is going with regards to TNT and unpacking the learning outcomes and where we are at. So I'm going to be sharing my screen. So please just give me the thumbs up, my co-lecturers, if you can actually see the screen, and if students are able to as well, my LED will, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So guys, are you able to see the screen? Can you confirm?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so in essence, as I said, I want to tackle this whole idea of the assessments, and to accommodate students, we have made some minor changes to the assessments, many of which you are aware of. It was communicated to you previously, but I just want to kind of refresh your memories and make sure that we all are on the same page in terms of our understanding of what was actually required for the tasks that have been submitted and for the ones that still are to go ahead. So in essence, we had, in terms of our original plan of action, we had 4 assessment tasks, class tasks, and we had a further assignment, and we had a written test that was meant to be taking place in April. So Subsequent to us embarking on our level 5 lockdown, we were asked to actually revisit our assessment tasks and look at making them more student friendly in terms of ensuring that the students are able to successfully complete the task given the time frames, given the current crisis that we find ourselves in, and given perhaps the limited resources that may be at your disposal. So we then had condensed those tasks. So one task was eliminated. So you will find that instead of the 4 class tasks, you have 3 class tasks, and you have your assignment, and the comprehensive test meant to be written is now converted into an online test. So just to gain clarity, as I said to you earlier, the positives are in terms of our assessment task, our cooperative learning task, which is basically the design and making of the mystery box, was successfully done at the beginning of the year, marked, returned, assessed, and given back to you as students. So that had been completed, and it stands in terms of its weightage as 10%. The scientific investigation, also a task that was actually completed and handed in before the lockdown. So that task is going to be assessed and allocated the regular 10% that it was originally allocated, because those 2 tasks actually formed part of the assessments before the actual lockdown. The challenge then came with task 3, which was the technological demonstration. That was where you had to make the elastic powered boat and give us feedback in terms of a PowerPoint with regards to the technological design processes involved in making that elastic powered boat. Now, here too, this particular task was explained at length in your class lectures before the lockdown, well in advance. But obviously, we gave you an extended time frame to work with that, and that it coincidentally coincided with the lockdown period. So, in essence, whilst that assignment task was meant to be due in April when we were supposed to get back at the beginning of term 2, and would have successfully been completed because it was started prior to the lockdown whilst we still were in contact lectures. Students benefited in that they were given additional time, so much so that that task was actually due then on the 7th of May. Okay, so what was tweaked and made a little different with that particular task is that given the circumstances and the difficulties perhaps associated with meeting as groups and really engaging with task 3, it was then open ended because some students had actually started as a group. So the option was given to them for that to continue working as a group. However, concession was made for students who were not positioned such that they could connect with a group and interact with that task. So that particular task, if you had submitted it individually or as a group, both ways were acceptable, right? And so that concession was made to encourage students to submit and to also make sure that all students benefit from the submission of that task and the percentage allocated thereof. So I must say, thank you for the efforts. I know from my end, I have received some good efforts that I am currently marking, right? With regards to the assignment here too, like class task 3, was typically explained in detail at the outset of the module. So when we actually commenced the module early in February this year, and we looked at unpacking the assessment tasks, we actually explained the assignment in detail to students. And that was actually given to you in your draft assessment guide at the time. So expectations, queries, questions pertaining to the assignment were also unpacked prior to us actually well before the lockdown was actually explained in class. So students had the benefit of understanding exactly what the assignment entailed. Now, here once again, the assignment originally was a group-based task, as were most of the tasks in TNT, but concession was given to the fact that many students started, if not completed, the assignment during the lockdown period when we were in level 5. So as a result, there too, we made the concession for students to submit individually if that was something that was manageable for them, and if working in a group context did not allow that, kind of given the situation or circumstances that they find themselves in. So that concession was made. The assignment was actually due on the 11th of May, and that's last week Monday. And so those two dates really have passed. Okay. The assignment was tweaked a little in the sense that we made it more realistic. We made it something that is more doable given the constraints that we find ourselves in. The part B of the assignment was eliminated, the video demonstration, and it is only part A, that the rationale and the actual lesson plan that needed to be submitted for the comprehensive assignment, submitted to the Turnitin portal, and we are underway with that marking as we speak. Okay, so that's with regard to the assignment, and that will constitute 35% of your total component for this module. Finally, the online test is scheduled to actually take place on the 5th of June and is going to be of basically an assortment of questions. So when students ask me, is it going to be MCQs, is it going to be long-winded questions, etc.? No, there are no long-winded questions, but there is a combination of MCQs, true and false type questions, matching short type answers. There is a combination of questions in the online test. And this hasn't changed in terms of coverage of units. As was originally said, the online test will basically only be covering units 1, 2, and 3. So students have had an enormous amount of time to interact with those 3 units. We've had engagement in all of those 3 units whilst we still were engaged with contact learning sessions on campus. So students, and subsequent to that, I have compiled revision exercises pertaining to the test and preparation for the test and those units, and that was uploaded onto ECI for further revision. So when it comes to the test, I think students really are in a position to actually fare well because all the preparations for the test were underway as well long in advance before this crisis situation that we do find ourselves in. So I think students, they are also on a winning wicket in terms of progress for the online test. Just some basic information regarding the online test. It is of an hour's duration. And given the fact that, yes, it may coincide with other commitments, etc., that you have, it will be left open for a period of 24 hours. So it will open up at 8 a.m. on the 5th of June and close at 8 a.m. on the 6th of June. So it means that in terms of managing and pacing your time, you are in a position to see which part of the day most suits your needs and when you are available. And once you log in, you'll basically be given just an hour to complete that online test. Now, the hour is more than sufficient because in essence, it is a 40-mark test, and we normally work on a minute per mark. And so you even have enough time to read and the questions and really engage with the material and actually complete that online test well within the allocated time frame. So from that perspective, we have tried to accommodate students as far as possible to ensure that it is something that is realistic, doable in the time frames given, and covering content that we really engaged with way before the lockdown. So that gives students ample opportunity to perform well in that online test as well. So I think with this module, we have kind of really, and I think in many ways, we benefited by working in advance from the get-go. And we always had a plan of action. We always had assigned tasks that were due weeks ahead um, as we worked our way through the module, and we explained and uncovered them and unpacked them to try and get you on board to a point where you really, really were comfortable with the expectations of what the module is, but also by the same token, comfortable in terms of how to manage your time to effectively get through the tasks that need to be submitted. Now, remember, this is a CAS module. It always was. So nothing really has changed by way of the fact that, an examination had to be converted to other forms of assessment, etc. Okay. So you'll find that it was always a CAS module and it's still going to be retained as such. It's just that we modified in particular the last 2 or 3 tasks to make it more student friendly so that students, given the constraints, the limited resources that may be at their disposal currently, have ample opportunity to successfully complete those tasks. So that in a nutshell is basically the assessment side of things, and it's something that I want to actually ask my colleagues if there's anything that they would like to add regarding the assessments for TNT 201.
Shivani, I don't mean to interrupt, but you do have a question. It's from
Okay.
Andre. He says, "Hi, Dr. Maharaj. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to ask how many questions will the test consist of?"
Okay. As the test itself is about 40 questions, as I said, a mark per question. So, in certain questions, whilst it may seem in terms of the numbering system, maybe 35 or 36, but within there may be a few subsections, but it's basically, in a nutshell, a mark per minute. And it is basically, you can say more or less 40 questions. Are there any other questions, Warwick, before I hand over to my co-lecturers?
That's the only question for now, Shivani. If there are any other questions, I will just let you know.
Sure. Yes, any of my colleagues, I see Mr. Mamutse would like to say something.
No, I think you actually explained anything, and even the guide also explained everything. But the good part is this session is going to give the students enough time to prepare. So I don't think there's anything I can add unless if the students themselves have questions.
Shivani, we do have, wow, your questions are going skyrocketing now. So
Right.
let me start with the first question. Or sorry, would you like Alfred to talk?
Yes, I'd just like him, if there's anything he wants
Sure.
to add, so then we can collectively as a team take questions.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Actually, you have explicitly explained it all, and I believe let's just accommodate the questions from the students, because from my side, well, it's well explained. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Okay.
Warwick, we ready for the questions. That's what we
From
wanted to be.
the first question is from Nabila. The question goes, "Hi, Dr. Maharaj. Will we receive our mark straight away?"
For the online test, it will have to obviously go through a process of moderation. And once that moderation process is complete, then marks will be released.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Lauren. "Good morning, Dr. Maharaj. Will the test be a multiple choice form?"
I think I did touch on that earlier, but just to repeat, it is a combination, an assortment of questions. So it will be a combination of MCQs, true and false, matching, and some short answer type questions. So no essays or descriptive paragraphs and things like that. No, no long-winded questions or essays. No.
All right. We have two last questions. First one is from Anonymous. Good morning. In regards to the online test, will the questions be multiple choice or give an answer? Okay, you've already answered that one with Lauren's question.
Mhm.
Another Anonymous. In regards to lecture content, when will that start? Because I feel as though this assessments have been well discussed.
Okay. In terms of, for those of you who have been touching base with the module page and keeping abreast with that and have been liaising and following through, we have started continuing the module way before these live sessions actually continued. So we have started working through units 4, which I have uploaded before we decided to embark on these live sessions. There's recorded versions of discussions of Unit 4 that's already been uploaded onto ECI. And moving on to Units 5 and 6, and also retouching base with Unit 4, that will commence from our very next live session. We just thought it most appropriate for this first live session to thoroughly explain the assessments because we've been receiving a lot of queries and emails pertaining to that, and also to kind of set the student's mind at ease in terms of completing the assessment tasks and the learning outcomes related there, and also to use this as a platform to entertain questions and queries regarding the module. So from next week onwards, we will be continuing with the module content. And as I say, there is basically 2 more units left to cover. So we are in good time. We are not going to be moving at a rushed pace. We will successfully complete the module outcomes for TNT 201 and even have time for consolidation and revision at the end.
Okay, the last question is from Anonymous. When will be given our marks back for the assignments we did before lockdown?
Right. When it comes to tasks and assignments, assessments, etc., remember that these all now have to intensely be moderated. Given the current crisis that we find ourselves in, and obviously the volume of students that we have across the campuses, it is only once that process is complete, thereafter it goes for a sign off by the head of department, and then will those marks be released to students. If you are asking for a specific date, it's really not possible for me to give you or pinpoint a date because it depends on that flow, that workflow in terms of where the assignments actually go, where the assessments go, etc. And when we receive feedback, regarding that, then can we actually go and make them available to the students. Of course, with regards to your task that was submitted, with regards to paper-based activities like your scientific report before the lockdown, if that's what you're talking about, you will obviously we will notify you when those marks are ready, and you can obviously log onto the my MG system and your mark will be available there. We will, as we have been doing, liaising with you as a group and notifying you. Your marks for your scientific investigation are now available. You can view them. We will let you know. And then, of course, your assignment, etc., you will get it back because it's marked off the Turnitin portal. Notification will be sent to you when your feedback and marked assignment is available to you, and you will be able to view it. But as I said, I cannot pinpoint dates due to the simple fact that it has to actually follow that flow, that process. We have a very rigorous, intense process of moderation at Stadio. So we have to ensure that we follow that. And given that this is a non-examinable module, all the tasks are subject to moderation. So I cannot speak for the moderator or the head of department who also are inundated with other tasks. And it will basically all depend on when the marking process is complete, the moderation process is complete, and you will be notified on my end, on ECI that you can now do your marks.
Okay. Your next question is from Keishan. Are we going to be assessed on any of the other units in this module other than 1, 2, and 3?
No, you have been assessed, you are assessed in terms of maybe not as the formal component in terms of this breakdown, but you will be given tasks. Already have started with that. If you have been working with assessment task 4, etc., well, really, it's not necessarily maybe composite of this weightage, but there are tasks for you to engage with, to look at, and to review. So yes, there are tasks which may not necessarily be part of your formal assessment component, but they
Hi,
are there
Simon.
to a form in assessment. Any other questions?
Hi, Shivani. We've got one question from Lee. Morning. So after the online test on the 5 June, are we done with assessments? If we still have to cover more units, how will those units be assessed?
As just answered, those questions, those units are assessed and embedded in our discussions and what we actually do, etc. Those will be questions, revision exercises, consolidation to sum up and tighten up the module. It may not necessarily be something that may actually be um, allocated as a formal mark. Any other questions?
Hi, Shivani. We have no other questions at the moment.
Okay, I don't know if my other lecturers or colleagues want to add anything to some of the responses that I had, because um, is there something that perhaps I have omitted, something that I haven't adequately addressed, and you would like to add to?
For me, so far, so good. Thank you.
Mr. Mamudse?
There's nothing I can add, Dr. Maraj.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just wait for the students. If they have questions, then we deal with them. But you have done justice to every other aspect here.
Okay. These students, if there aren't any questions, there are one or two issues that I want to raise as common concerns, and that have been coming forwarded to me as individual students. I think Mr. Machingambi has also had similar kind of requests, etc. Remember, for the assignment with regards to the Turnitin assignment, the very fact that it is a Turnitin assignment means it has to be submitted to the Turnitin portal. Now, what was actually happening was that there were some students who were trying to actually email us that Turnitin assignment. And we have got some clarity in terms of the assessment board. Is that kind of practice allowed, etc.? And the answer typically to that was no. So your Turnitin assignment has to be submitted to Turnitin. And so it is marked off the Turnitin portal, and you will receive feedback in that form. So any requests, oh, I couldn't meet the deadline, or I didn't make the deadline for the assignment, can you please accept an emailed version? It clearly came from a higher level as a directive to us that no, we cannot. Because if it was a Turnitin assignment, it had to be submitted as per the submission requirements to the Turnitin portal. So that is something that was coming across um, quite heavily in terms of questioning. And I know Mr. Machingambi and I did have requests to that end. I don't know if Mr. Mutse did, but yeah, that's something that one you really need to actually bear in mind, that that kind of practice really was unacceptable. So students who did make those requests, we have responded to them individually based on the directives that we have received. And So that is something that really you need to understand is not a decision that we as individual lecturers or I as an MC make, but it's actually something, a directive that we need to follow. And we need to ensure that we are in keeping, of course, with the Embry policy. The one other thing that I need to touch on is the whole notion of an opportunity for a second submission or assessment of perhaps, for whatever valid reason you feel that you did not meet the submission date or deadline for the assignment. The process to apply for that second opportunity is outlined and detailed on ECI. And the head of assessment, Mrs. Naya, has asked that we communicate that to students. So that is the formal process that they will have to go through. It still does not guarantee that the student will automatically be granted that second opportunity. Each case will be considered on a case by case analysis. That decision will come from the head of assessment, right, and compliance regulations and a board when they meet. And they then will advise the lecturers concerned that this student has been granted that opportunity, and then only can we proceed. It's not a case of that, we make that judgment call. So I must stress that at the outset, it's we in no way have that kind of power or authority. It's something that the student then basically has to take up with the head of assessment or the assessment board, and they sit and consider the case and put forward a decision which we then have to implement. So if they grant that second opportunity and they say, right, Mr. Mahmoud say you have a student here who's applied for a second opportunity, then obviously he will have to accept that second opportunity submission. Um, so similarly, with any one of us on the team, we have to follow and be consistent with that. And as I said, it's not something that you can email us individually and say, okay, I'm at the Montana campus, so I have to email Mr. Mamutse, or I'm at the Waterfall campus, I have to email Mr. Machingami, or let me go and email the MC and she will, make that concession. It's not something that's within our power or decision-making powers. So we have to basically follow directive in terms of once that process is formalized, if a decision is taken that opportunity has been granted, and if we are directed to proceed, then only can we accept that submission. So our hands are tied by way of granting any extensions or second opportunities. And I think it's important for students to really understand that, because very often students tend to feel that it's a decision we make. And sometimes if the feedback that comes back is negative and the student is not granted that concession, it seems as if it's coming from us. So really, it's not, and in no way do we make those decisions. The same is for any module across um, Stadio School of Education. Really, it's not something that we have the power over. So yeah, I just wanted to speak, particularly use a session to touch base with regards to assessments and assessment tasks and the up and coming online test. And just to let you know that, yes, it's an assortment, as I said, of questions, and it's really covered in such a way that it gives the student ample opportunity to do that test in that given period and ample time allowance to complete it. Whether, perhaps you're a bit of a slow reader, you do have enough time. We factored all that in and made sure that the test actually is conducive to be taken during these circumstances. It has been moderated, and it's all systems go ahead in terms of being taken on um, the 5th of June, until the 6th. And so, yeah, that in essence is basically what we wanted to cover. And from next week going forward, we will be looking at Unit 4 and unpacking, looking at the tasks embedded in Unit 4. We will be looking at unpacking those tasks in terms of as a collective and also in terms of guiding you as to how you can apply some of those principles in your own science classrooms. That's pretty much what I needed to say. Colleagues?
Shivani, we have one question
Mhm.
from Andre. Are we going to use our books and slides or online slides? Sorry, I'm trying to understand here. There are a few typos. Are we going to use our books and slides or the online slides for the test? And if it is the book, what sections?
Right. As I said to you, yes, remember in the lectures that we covered and in a given session, be it live or be it contact, remember we only can touch or hone in on key aspects relating to that particular section. At tertiary level, there's a responsibility of the student to actually go and engage with the prescribed book. So, yes, you have to, in preparation for those units 1, 2, and 3, it is by no means an expectation that you just go and see the easy shortcut that Dr. Miraj compiled these slides for us and if I learn off those slides, I'm good to go, and that is sufficient. No, that is being minimalistic in your approach, right? With each accompanying unit, the relevant chapter and page number is actually placed on the first slide of every slideshow that is done. Also, it is placed on your study letter, the corresponding chapter and page number. So you, for example, if you look at Unit 1, it is aligned to the CAPS document in the subjects of natural sciences and technology, in the senior phase, as well as in the intermediate phase. If you look at Unit 2, it is very much aligned to Chapter 1 in your prescribed textbook. And it is stipulated at the outset of every unit in all study materials pertaining to this module. So in the study letter itself, at the beginning of each PowerPoint show or slideshow that we have covered, as well as the ones that we still are to cover, you will find that the relevant or corresponding page numbers and chapters are included in those slideshows. So yes, you do have to consult with your prescribed textbook every step of the way in this module. It is impossible for us, and I'm sure no student expects us to sit and bore you to death with reading the textbook. None of us lecture in that style. That's not what science is all about. So you're going to find that it is critical that that additional reading or independent work, which is actually embedded in the notional hours of any module that you do at tertiary, there is a key area, I've emphasized this previously, in terms of independent work and research, and hours are allocated for that. For you to, outside the live lecture format or outside the contact learning format, to read and engage with your prescribed material. That is
Sorry, Shivani. I'm just going to have to ask you to wrap it up. Your session has ended.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Thank
that's
you.
pretty much what I needed to say on that area. So yes, you have to engage with all prescribed material, not just the PowerPoints in preparation for the test.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Shivani. I'll wrap it up here and have a great day. All right.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank
See you.
you.